Since 1961, thousands of faculty have shared their knowledge and expertise with our amazing students. And while not one of these individuals have walked the same path, we all have found one thing in common: purpose. We find meaning in our instruction that transcends beyond the classroom. For most of us, this is not a profession, it's a calling. This podcast captures the stories of some incredible faculty who continue to show up in today's evolving educational landscape. Welcome to Purpose, a Faculty Excellence Institute podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Purpose, a Faculty Excellence Institute podcast. My name is Jeffrey McGee. I'm the Department Chair of Fine Arts at San Jacinto College at the South Campus. And I'm here today with Ross Kelsey, Professor of History, also at South Campus, formerly the Director of Campus Services at South Campus, which is where he and I met originally. It was when he was doing that administrative job. So welcome, Ross.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great. So Ross and I have known each other for a long time. We played softball together on South Campus. He's our manager. He sets the games up for us to play softball against the softball team, which is fantastic. So if you don't know Ross, you should. I'm just going to say that right off the bat.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And everybody else who talks about you always says the same thing. Like, you don't know who Ross is? Like, what's wrong with you?
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? How did you get to San Jacinto College from where you were as a kid?
So I grew up, my hometown is Haven, Kansas. It's a small town in the middle of Kansas. Went to high school there, went to grade school, middle school. I graduated. I went to a small community college, Cali County Community College, Cali College, 4 C's. And I went to Wichita State. So I was there for a couple years after I graduated, but my parents moved to Texas. So my parents moved to Texas while I was in college. And so I was just kind of in need of a bit of a change. And so I wanted a bit of a different scenario. And so then I ended up moving to Texas. I finished out my academic career at UH Clear Lake, so I got my bachelor's and master's at UH Clear Lake. And it's actually kind of interesting in terms of if the question is how did I end up at San Jac?
Yeah.
So it's actually interesting because I did end up applying for a number of jobs after I got my bachelor's at San Jac.
Okay.
So in 2012, I graduated with my bachelor's, and I did apply for a couple of jobs, but I didn't have a whole lot of interest in terms of how I was going to work with my schedule and me getting my master's. And so once I ended up graduating with my master's, it's actually a really interesting scenario because 2 days after I graduated with my master's, I had been a TA that semester. And so I got a call about adjuncting at San Jac. So I'd actually talked about taking a couple classes at San Jac to adjunct. And at that same time, I'd applied as a job for an administrative assistant. And so I ended up interviewing for that like the week after I interviewed to possibly be an adjunct. And since that was an hourly job, I couldn't do both. So I ended up starting off as an admin assistant.
Because it was full-time.
Because it was full-time, yes.
Right.
So I really did want to teach, and I always wanted to teach. But it was kind of a scary proposition going into teaching 2 part-time classes.
Yeah.
And I really liked the flexibility that I had, or the benefits. I liked the option of working full-time. And I really liked the idea of just kind of getting my feet wet in a college.
Sure.
And so I really enjoyed being an admin assistant. So I wasn't able to teach while I was an admin assistant, but I really had a great time as an admin assistant. That's one of the things that helped me build a lot of connections that I have now.
For sure.
And so that was a really essential part of my journey with San Jac. So,
and that led to the administrative job, I'm assuming?
And that led to,
right.
So my boss ended up getting a new job a year and a half into me being an admin assistant. And he had said that one of the things that he liked was that I had a master's, so I could potentially be the person that would lead after him. So I could follow after him into this role. And so it just kind of worked out that way. So then I served in that role for 6 years.
Yeah, it seemed,
But About a year into that, I started teaching. So
Right.
my first semester was Harvey.
Welcome to
Yeah,
teaching.
right. So that was an interesting thing during Harvey, trying
Pre
to
all the good online support stuff that we now
right.
have, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a lot harder.
So positives to that were while everything was going on with Harvey, I could kind of have a distraction of trying to adjust what my class was going to look like.
Sure.
But
sure.
it was definitely one of those things where I just had to tell myself that first semester teaching that if I can make it through this, I can make it through anything.
Yeah.
With the chaoticness of that, with the students who were displaced. I mean, it was.
In your position at the time, it used to be called evening division, but now it's campus services, right? That
Yeah.
position is really the first point of contact for anything that happens.
Right. Yeah.
If something goes wrong on a campus, you're the first person people called, right?
Right.
And,
Yeah. Correct.
and to your credit, and I was in the role. I was a chair at the time, and I wasn't a chair yet, but I became chair while you were still in that role.
Yeah.
And I remember becoming a new department chair and knowing that if I needed some help with a door, or if I needed some help with like, hey, can you get someone with a lift over here like today? Hey, let me just call Ross. And I think that's what a lot of people's experience with you, working with you, dealing with you, it's always a positive one because you just had this way of like, oh yeah, we can take care of that. Let me just make a phone call. Right. And so can you tell me a little bit about how like building that relationship has kind of supported your role in your career? Like seems like your relationship building is a big part of what you do.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's really true. That I like to build relationships with my coworkers. I also like to build relationships with my students.
Yeah.
And so those have translated really well. It's interesting because early on in my career, I talked to somebody who worked in maintenance, and they said, I always take everyone's issues that they bring to me, and I say, just because it doesn't seem like it's a big deal to me, it could be a very big deal to them. And I worked in customer service for 8 years, and so I understand that if it may seem minute to me, it might be the biggest deal to somebody.
Yeah.
And so that goes both ways, because then if I can fix it very easily, I can make them happy very easily. And so there were a lot of problems that, first off, I love solving problems. And there were a lot of problems that I felt that, you could take the necessary time and really make someone's day.
Yeah.
And that really kind of became a driving force for a lot of things that I did.
And so how do you apply that to the classroom? Because now you're a full-time history professor, right? So you're still on campus, you're still present, but in this very different role.
Right.
Right. How do you apply those lessons, those life lessons that you get from this administrative job, teaching part-time, and now you're a full-time instructor, full-time faculty member? What do you do about that?
I still like to build relationships in a similar way with my students. I like to, figure out some of the things that really make them happy and kind of build from that. One of the things I'm working on this semester in terms of some of my assignments is I've told students with certain things, what are you all interested in? In terms of what do you want to write about? Obviously, when it comes to certain areas, it has to fall within my course. But I said, I have my certain interests that I would be interested in pushing, but what would you all be interested in? And it's kind of interesting because I've adapted even individual assignments to just kind of the general makeup of what my class has done. In terms of building relationships with colleagues, I still like to walk around and check in on people, see what's new with them. A lot of that came from my building relationships with the part-time faculty. Because
in the role of campus services director, the part-time faculty, that's where they make copies. They get coffee. Like, that's their hub.
Right,
At least at South. I don't know about here at Central, but yeah.
And that's always been a big part of my job is problem solving with them. And, I still talk to a lot of the part-time faculty weekly at the bare minimum. I still try to meet with them as much as I can. And the nice thing in my current role, especially being a colleague with a lot of these folks, is we've hired a lot of our part-time faculty. Yeah. So those relationships have kind of just built. And so that's been a really nice part for me. And it's also been nice to kind of see them achieve their success.
Right.
And so it's been nice.
It's education 101, right? Like, you're not there for you, you're there for someone else, whether it's an administrative role, a staff role, like it's a service position, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of people, I always tell people who don't know what we do at San Jac, I say it's public service. Like
Right.
and that means customer service,
Right.
right? It's just a different word for it.
Yeah.
And so all those skills apply. If you've ever worked food service or if you've ever worked at a retail space or anything like that, which many of us have had those kind of jobs.
Yeah.
Like you think about what does it look like to just put on a smile for this one person for 10 minutes and then you can go back to your whatever you're grumpy
Right.
about. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's okay.
Yeah.
But you're there to help this person or this group.
Yeah.
And that's important.
And I've always found a lot of satisfaction in helping solve problems. And
Yeah.
so it definitely probably is something that translated from my years in customer service. But I had a lot of personal gratification from helping solve problems. So
Interesting.
knowing that people had an issue and
Yeah.
that I could help solve it, I really found a lot of value in that.
Would you say that would be your purpose? That's why you come to work every day?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What-
Still.
So, and that's fascinating too, that is your driving force. Some faculty might say, well, I just love history so much. I can't get enough of history. I had to talk about it all day long.
Yeah.
And that may be true, but the purpose, the reason you're here is because you want to help someone.
Right.
And I hope I'm not talking out of turn.
You're not talking
No.
out of turn. And
Yeah.
I tell a lot of my students that, of course, we're going to talk a lot about history. We're going to have a lot of
Yeah.
historical facts.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're going to understand historical memes when you leave my class. But I also tell them my role is not done when I'm out of the classroom. I can still help you. I can still
Yeah.
write letters of recommendation. I can still help you in your next steps.
Yeah.
And I said, I love that part. I love hearing back from former students who are doing, something different, who are in the field, who have gotten the jobs that they've wanted.
Huh.
And it's really nice to know that you've played a role in that.
Yeah.
That you've had an important part of that step.
So tell me about a time you learned something from a student. What was that experience like? And how has it changed your approach to the job? I'm going on script now because that was all off the cuff, but now we're on script.
That seems like a very
Yeah.
script interview question.
And it turned in, it was like a perfect segue.
It
So
really
thank you for
was.
that.
It was a
Yeah.
perfect segue. I'm trying to think of a good situation where I've learned something from a student. A lot of times it's kind of interesting because I think as a faculty member, I had a faculty member, going back, when I took English comp when I was in college,
Yep.
I took a very strict English comp teacher that I ended up having to drop the class. And so then I took a different English comp teacher.
Okay.
And I was never a great writer. And so I reached out to him years later because he ended up writing a book. So he was on social media. So I reached out to him years later and I just said, I don't know if my quality of student was good. I don't expect you to remember me. I don't expect any of that.
Yeah.
But I currently teach in a college, and I just wanted to say, after the experience I had previously, taking your class really kind of was the spark that I needed to keep going.
Isn't that fascinating?
And
Like,
Yeah.
like it's a person.
right.
It's not the subject. It's the person
Right.
that does it.
And I
Yeah.
said, I don't know if he realized like the level of care that he had or the impact that he had at that time in my life.
Right.
And his response back was to me that as a faculty member, we don't hear that often. We don't
Yeah.
hear the success of when, it really did make a big difference to folks. And so I think maybe in terms of answering this question or not answering this question at all, one of the things that kind of is interesting to me is hearing back from students years later about the impact that you had.
Right.
And so it kind of reminds me a lot of that situation I had with my comp teacher.
Yeah.
Where I told him after that, I said, I don't know why I never reached out before or said anything at that
Right.
point, but it really did, looking back, make a huge impact on my career. And I said,
Yeah.
and now I'm doing what you're doing, like I'm doing what you're
Right.
doing and I'm hoping to have that same impact that you had on me.
Yeah.
And so,
This is the guy that failed his English class, came to you to a second chance,
yeah,
and here I am teaching people how to write in a history context.
right. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I said, I mean, it's something I would have never felt like would have happened. And
That's
so,
yeah.
So for me, I can't think of any particulars in that sense, but I know I've had some students who have reached out years later.
Sure.
I see students on campus quite a bit who, mention that from, in my standpoint. It's interesting because I really like getting student perspectives because I always tell them I can never predict how they're going to approach certain issues, certain problems.
Yeah.
And every semester it's different, every year it's different, and
Right.
it's really interesting to see their perspectives on certain things that kind of push me to either change the way that I think or change the way that I teach.
Right. Do you still feel connected to the students, like generationally? Or are you, I'm not going to ask you how old you are because that's not what this is about, but.
It is difficult. I will say that.
Yes.
It's very difficult. And one of the things that's really interesting is I was preparing what I'm going to teach next week, and I try to provide slang for each decade that I provide. And I mean, the 1890s is not the greatest. The 1900s is not the greatest. But the students love like 1920s slang. And I remember in the beginning for the 2020s, there was talk, should we bring back 20s slang? You know?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because then they'll say, well, in 50, 100 years, are we going to be talking about our slang? And they'll just start mentioning things. And I'll say, I have no idea what any of that means.
Riz in 50 years is going to be like, what is that?
Are we going to historically understand the context of that?
That's right.
And I tell them, I have no idea what any of that means. So am I going to be teaching that? Maybe. I'll be teaching that in 30 years of what this meant, but I didn't understand it at the time.
It's so funny.
So I try, and I try to get some of their perspectives to understand generationally what means a lot to them.
Yeah.
And so
in a history class, that's super important. I would
right.
think.
Yeah. And it's important to try to relate things, you know, and get it to be more relatable to them. But it's definitely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It was easier when my niece, who's now 20, was their age. I felt like I could relate to everything because the things that she was explaining to me, I got.
Yeah.
Now, it's a challenge. I try to make things relatable at times.
Yeah.
I try to get between relatable and cringy. So
yeah. The dad jokes help.
Yeah,
you know, and you know, you present as a younger person than you really are, and I know that you just look young. You talk young. You know, and so I think the students are going to relate to you easier than they would maybe someone who doesn't look as young as you do, right?
Yeah.
And you know that about yourself.
Right.
You just do. You look like a student sometimes walking down the street.
Yeah.
And when I started, I was 28 years old when I got this job. I felt so connected to those students. I felt like a big brother.
Yeah.
And now, like, I 20 years later, 15 years later, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know?
I relish the times when I have students who are my age in class because I'll say something, I'm like, he gets it.
Yeah, this guy gets it.
This
guy right here.
He knows what I'm talking about.
And they chuckle to themselves. You're like,
There's one of them. There's one of them. Yeah, I tell them I'll take any laughs I get. Sympathy laughs, pity laughs, whatever laughs I can get.
We love that.
There's maybe one person that gets it, but you know.
Yeah. You say, ask him later.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I struggle with that, which is funny from a history standpoint about providing context of giving a joke that then I have to explain.
That's right.
So now I do try every once in a while to give them a story historically and then make a joke about that. And then I see if they can understand that. So
they have context.
They have context.
And then you see if they get the humor.
Right. Yeah.
And that tells you if you should have been a comedian or not.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
And the answer is
clearly no.
No.
Yeah. It's clearly a no. But I did have a joke the other day where it was something from the lecture before. And somebody told me that's too soon. It's too soon. Too soon for that joke. And I said,
boy.
well, at least you got it. So you know.
And there's a student teaching you something right there.
Right.
You answered that question.
Yeah.
A student taught me.
Exactly.
Too soon.
Yeah. Too soon.
So I'm going to ask you a couple personal questions if that's okay.
Yes.
We had a lot about work, but let's talk about Ross.
Okay.
Right. Tell us something interesting about you that maybe only a few people or a handful of people know.
So I'm really into scooters.
Scooters.
And scootering.
Scootering. In what context? What kind of scooter are we talking about?
I have a collection of smaller engined scooters. So like I have a Honda Super Cub, a Honda Trail.
Okay.
Vespa-like scooters. I don't have a Vespa yet, but I was just having a conversation with a student yesterday. What vehicle would you want? And I said, I don't know if you'd want to know because it's probably not relatable.
Yeah.
But I also like getting older scooters and fixing them up. So
you use this as a job, like as a side thing, or just for fun?
Just for fun.
Just for fun. Okay.
So my grandpa in the 1970s, he bought a really cheap scooter. for commuting purposes, not necessarily for lifestyle reasons, but because gas was very expensive. And
he wasn't trying to be like in a scooter gang in the
no,
city.
he was not. He was not.
in,
He was
in
just
rural Kansas.
Yeah. He was just trying to save some money. And so I have this picture of my grandpa on this scooter in 1980. And recently I have found not the same exact scooter, but the exact same year, exact same color.
Yeah.
And so I've worked on fixing that.
Crazy, yeah.
I've had a couple of different ones that I've enjoyed fixing up. I jokingly told somebody the other day that I do like to fix them up and sell them, but then I said, once you fix them up, there's a story there, and then you can't.
Yeah.
My wife would like me to fix them up and sell them and not just have them around. But that's one thing that I really do. Another thing that a lot of people, probably even those that are really close to me, don't know is I have 2 cars that are from Japan. They're JDM, which is the Japanese domestic market cars.
Yeah.
I have a K van. The K regulations in Japan are limited to a certain amount of horsepower, 63 horsepower.
Yeah.
And a small engine, 660cc engine. So I have a little K van.
At your house?
At my house, yeah. And then I have, we drive it around. Sometimes I drive it to work. I've actually driven it to work a few times.
Okay, tell me where you park, and I'm going to come see this thing next time. Yeah.
I will,
You text me next time you drive it.
Every once in a while, someone will text me, and they'll be like, is this your car? And I'm like, oh, what, somebody else got another one?
Yeah.
And then I have a 1999 Honda Logo. It's a car that was only produced in Japan as well. It's basically like a precursor to the Honda Fit.
Okay, yeah.
Has the same engine as the Honda Civic. So it's really neat. It's a right-hand drive car. So
oh wow, wild.
From the outside, my wife and I like to joke that it looks like if you asked AI to make a car, like what a car would look. It just looks like that, but it's really unique because it spent 25 years of its life in Japan, and now it's in Houston, Texas, driving on these Houston highways.
Yeah. Oh man.
Getting blown by on the highways.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I knew about the mini bikes. I did not know about the Japanese
a lot of
cars.
people don't know that I have a couple Japanese cars. The Logo I actually drive. That's my main commuter.
Is it really?
Yeah. So I generally drive a motorcycle or a scooter because I've got a few of those. But on days that it rains, so like this last week it rained every day, I just drove my Japanese car.
Ross Kelsey, keeping it real.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
No computers in his vehicles.
Yeah. They're real easy to fix because there's pretty much nothing in there. It's interesting because we had a conversation about the 90s one day when the internet wasn't working on campus. And somebody was talking about cars being simple and easy to fix. And I said, yeah, just wait until I have a major problem, then I'll probably change my perspective on that.
Yeah,
but
right.
It's simple.
For now, it's the way it works. Yeah.
Driving it to graduation in downtown rush hour traffic was a little scary.
Park. Yeah,
but
sure.
It's been fun.
But that's why you have to have 3 of them, right?
Right,
These ones where you gotta have a cycle.
There's always one that's going to work, so.
All right. So a couple of rapid fires.
Okay.
We are almost out of time, but what's your go-to wake-up drink?
I generally drink coffee in the morning.
Okay.
I teach a 7 a.m. class, so I try to drink coffee about 6:15, 6:20, and then I usually drink a Red Bull after that. So.
Oh, okay. Nice. You're caffeinated all
I have a coffee Red Bull routine.
All right. Favorite class to teach?
I really enjoy teaching U.S. History 2, which is U.S. History from 1877 to present. I think it's a lot more relatable for students.
Okay. And going back to your personal history, last question. What job did you want when you were a kid?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I feel like I kind of wanted to do everything, wanted to be an astronaut. A lot of my family is in the medical field, so I did want to do something in the medical field until I took biology. But I will say this, and I do tell people this all the time. No one that I grew up with would be surprised that I majored in history. While people were reading Harry Potter, I was reading books that were biographies on presidents.
Oh, wow. Even as a kid?
Even as a kid. Even as a kid, I was interested. My dad and I went to probably every historical site in Kansas. So I was always into history. Could I imagine myself being a history professor? I can't say that I could. Pretty much no men in my family ever went to college. Almost all the men in my family worked in industry. Yeah. And so
it's rural Kansas.
It's rural Kansas. The number of people I knew that had a master's degree, maybe 1 or 2. Yeah. So the ideas of being a college professor, I can't say is even something I could fathom.
Well, and if you
up.
don't know Kansas, I lived in Kansas and
Yeah.
Lawrence for years too, and Wichita State is the place to go if you're out there.
Yeah,
Right? Like
yeah.
there's like where are you going to, there's Missouri or there's Kansas State, Wichita State, but then you get into Lawrence and Kansas City area.
Right,
Outside of that, you might as well go to Colorado.
right.
Right?
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, driving through it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ross. This has been
Thank
a
you.
great conversation. I'm so glad that I got to know you a little bit better than I knew you before. And like I said, if you don't know Ross, get to know Ross. Stay classy, San Jacinto.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Purpose, a Faculty Excellence Institute podcast. Join us next time as we hear from one of our inspiring faculty. Keep doing great work and stay classy, San Jacinto.